On episode 400 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we're going to celebrate 400 episodes of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, our past and our future. You can find the full show notes for this episode, along with all the links mentioned, at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/400. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Hello, and thank you for being a part of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. This episode might sound a little different than my normal podcast because this, again, is one I'm actually going to be editing myself. Apologize if the audio quality is not quite to standard, but I wanted to wait till closer to issue date to actually put this one out there because I really wanted to take some time to think about what I wanted to say and really put out a heartfelt thank you. We're celebrating our 400th episode, and it wouldn't be possible without you. If I didn't have you each and every week listening to the show, I would stop doing it. But I do, and here you are. And I appreciate you here. I hope you'll stick around, even though most of this is going to be about where we've been as a podcast and where we're going as a podcast. But it's also going to have some tidbits of some good information that I think you can use. So it's a little give and just a little fun, and I hope you'll enjoy that. So I don't know if you know this, how long you've been listening, but I started the podcast in December of 2015. And I had a launch planned, opened up a Facebook page and grew that page for the launch, launched the podcast early in December, like December 6th, with the premise that the podcast would kind of be a big thing by New Year's Eve when, most people come in New Year's Day and do their resolutions. I wanted to be one of the top podcasts as people were getting their new iPhones and Android phones for Christmas and seeing the podcast apps on there and saying, hey, I'm listening to this podcast. I wanted to be up there in the rankings so I would show up and get some listens. And it actually worked out pretty well. The podcast has grown quite well. With 400 episodes, I've actually interviewed 235 plus guests. I had over that many guests on the show. Most of which have written books or at least required me to do some research. And we are fast approaching 2 million downloads, which I can't tell you how huge that is. It puts us in the top 10 percentile of podcasts. So even though you can go look on the list, and sometimes I'm not quite there in the top 200, I can tell you that we're still doing really, really well. We're still up in the rankings because there's hundreds of thousands of health and fitness podcasts. So even to be, in the top 10% means we're doing something right. And I know it's because you're listening and you're here, and I'm getting the best guests that I possibly can and enjoying every single minute of it. Now, to kind of give you some numbers that'll put this into context, with us doing these shows, 400 podcasts, each podcast averages about 30 minutes. Now, the solo ones, they don't last quite as long as some of the interviews do, because I don't think you want to listen to me for a solid hour. But on average, the podcasts do last about 30 minutes or more. So that's it's going to be over 200 hours of listening. So if you wanted to go back and listen to each and every episode from the beginning, you would have over 200 hours of content to listen to. And that's quite a bit. Now, to give you a little bit more context, each episode takes me about 10 hours of preparation and planning. And so I have put well over 4,000 hours of my lifetime blood and sweat and tears into the creation of this podcast because it is a passion project for me. I want to bring you the information that's out there. I want to give you the opportunity to hear what the experts have to say themselves. It's not me telling you everything I think. There are some solo shows. But for the most part, I'm very open-minded and agnostic. I want to find a way that works for you. I want you to find a way that works for you. So if you're listening to someone and they start talking about something that you don't necessarily agree with, we can have a dialogue about that. That's totally cool. I don't always agree with our guests. In fact, sometimes I disagree deeply with our guests. Now, I don't confront them and attack them. I go through and I get their point of the view. I listen to what they have to say. And what I found is there are always some bits of common ground if we'll just take the time to listen. So that's what I try to provide with this podcast. I'm not out there to say one is better than the other, or this one's wrong, that one's right. That's not my place. That's your place. With your health and fitness, that's your place to say what is and isn't right for you. Now, to give you a little bit of content, because I think for you to come and just listen to me talk about the podcast, about the work that I'm doing here for however much time this podcast goes would be quite boring. So I took a moment to go through the podcasts that I thought were the best of the best. With 400 podcasts, getting in the top 10 was no small feat for me. I love each and every guest that comes on the show because they're willing to give you their time, their effort, and their thoughts. They do it very thoughtfully, and I've had some great interviews. But I was able to pull out 10 that I think are extremely valuable because the author or the guest that came on the show, they all happen to be authors, but the guest that came on the show was so giving and so generous in the information that they were sharing, and their book was just fabulous. So, using that as a criteria to decide who I was going to have on here, I did manage to pare it down to 10, and I'm going to share them with you. They're not in any particular order. And I will say, okay, I'm going to give you an episode number. So if you go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com and then put the / and then that episode number, that will take you to the episode. Otherwise, you can go to the podcast page. You just through the front page, you click on podcast, and you'll see a little search bar there. You can click in their name or the name of the book, and that should also take you there. But when I give you a podcast number, just know that you can find that podcast by actually using that as the extension after the / on the website name. So the first one is episode 385 with Dr. Mark Bubbs. He also got a lot of positive reviews on iTunes. Some people really liked what he had to say. His book is Peak. And in the book, he's talking about performance. He's a performance doctor. He studies performance. And so he was, kind of diving into the science of performance, and he really gets into the book. Now, I'll give away the little hallmark of the whole thing. One of the big secrets is sleep. So if you're getting good sleep, your performance is going to be better. So improving your sleep will improve your performance. And by performance, it doesn't necessarily mean your 40-yard dash. It can just be being a better grandmother, or, being able to do the yard work or work in the garden, that you're growing a little bit easier and a little bit better. That could be for performance for you. So to perform better, get better sleep. So that was one of the key takeaways from my discussion with Dr. Bubbs. And you can go to episode 385 and hear that full interview. The next one is episode 242 with Dr. Sarah Gottfried. Her book is Younger. And in the book, she talks about longevity. She talks about maintaining health where your body is, in a sense, younger, not on a chronological, but in a biological perspective. So she shares a ton of tips there on how you can keep yourself biologically younger. So again, that's episode 242 with Dr. Sarah Gottfried. The next one is episode 248 with Jeff Galloway. Now, Jeff Galloway has been a runner and been writing about running forever. I mean, when I was running in the early 90s, he was writing. So this guy's been doing this for a long time. He knows his running. And the cool thing is his book is called The Run, Walk, Run Method, which happens to be very similar to a process that I would use when I was coaching runners, particularly new runners, on how to run, how to get to a point where they can go from walking to running and get their distance up, get their speed up. But he goes much further in his book called The Run, Walk, Run Method. He gives you the cues so you can use this method not only in your training, but in your racing to run faster and further. So if you're interested in running or thinking about running, and even if you're concerned about running but want to, I'd strongly encourage you to check out the Run, Walk, Run Method book and check out our interview with Jeff Galloway at episode 248. On episode 317, we had Dr. Adam Nally, and his book is The Keto Cure. Now, one of the cool things I like about Dr. Nally is that he is prolific on social media. He is constantly putting out lives on his Facebook feed. He's on YouTube. He's out and about, and he's really doing everything he can to help people. He'll get on live Q&As, and he'll spend 45 minutes, an hour or longer answering questions and trying to help people. He strongly believes, and I don't disagree with him, that keto can be the answer to a lot of the disease, the self-inflicted style diseases that we have out there, like metabolic disease, diabetes, heart disease, even some cancers. And he talks about, and thyroid, he talks about all that in his book and more. And it's a really good interview. And like I said, I just really look up to Dr. Nally, the amount of effort and time he puts out there to help people get healthy, utilizing the ketogenic diet. I think is just a great opportunity. You should go check him out. And again, that was episode 317. On episode 369, I had Kathleen Trotter on for the second time. And that time we talked about her book, Your Fittest Future Self. Now, Kathleen is just a bubbling mess. I mean, I just really enjoy her. She's so much fun. She's so joyful to be around. You can't talk to this woman and not be smiling. You can't. She's starting to make the rounds on the morning talk shows, and I can tell you because of this. It's because of this book. It's a really good book. If you're looking to get fit and you're looking to do it within the paradigm of making it joyful, making it fun, and then having this vision and going forward on it, this is the book for you. And I strongly encourage you to check out that interview at episode 369. On episode 356, I had Maria Emmerich on. I've had her on several times because she's prolific in writing cookbooks. She did one with her husband that's not a cookbook, but I just love her cookbooks. And the one, Keto Comfort Foods, that we talked about in this episode 256, is my favorite cookbook. I'm sad that I wasn't able to bring it down here to Panama. I loaded up my luggage, and then I was like, I had to pull it out because I was overweight. And it was the last thing I pulled out, and I was like, I really didn't want to, but I got to a point where I just had to. And so I had to leave that cookbook at home. And I'm really sad about it. Well, I say home in Pensacola. But when I go back in December, that cookbook and her restaurant's cookbook are coming back with me for sure. They're going to be first on the list for sure. But it's a really good cookbook. If you're looking to get into ketogenic eating, those are two cookbooks I can strongly recommend that you have on your shelf and you try them out. But you can listen to the podcast because Maria is also just a lot of fun and a really good source of information on the ketogenic diet, and also getting kids on the ketogenic diet, because she has two adopted kids that they eat keto, so they don't know candy, they don't know these other things, they just eat the keto diet, and those boys they just look great. I follow her on social media, and I can tell you those boys are thriving the way she's feeding them, and so it's working, and that's kind of the good news I wanted to share with you, is that for a lot of people, the ketogenic diet is a great way of eating, and Maria makes it taste delicious. Okay, next is episode 338 with Dr. Johnny Bowden. Again, Dr. Bowden has been on the podcast a couple different times. This book that we talked to on this episode is called Smart Fat. And the reason I really like this book is because he kind of breaks through the whole thing. We were told fat was bad for us for so many decades that a lot of people are fat phobic and they don't know what to do. They don't know why certain fats would be called good fats and some would be bad fats. Well, he's explaining smart fats because there's fats that your brain needs to function. And when we go on low-fat diets, in many cases, we're starving our brain of the very thing it needs to thrive. So his book is really good about giving you the information on fat. There are good fats, there are bad fats, but there are also smart fats. So check out Johnny Bowden's book, Smart Fat, Dr. Johnny Bowden's book, Smart Fat, and episode 338 if you want to learn more and hear that podcast. Now, on episode 275, I was just thrilled to have Gretchen Rubin. I mean, she is one of the most famous people I'd had on the podcast at that point. She's just huge, best-selling author, a major speaker all over the place. But she humbled me by coming onto the show. I was just really thrilled to have her on because she's such a great person and so busy that she took the time to be with us, and I think that's huge. So you should go check out episode 275. We talked about her book, The Four Tendencies, and this is kind of a book where she gets into some of these sub reasons why we do the things we do. Like, we may tell ourselves we don't want to do something because for our health, but then invariably we end up doing it. And she explores this in her book called The Four Tendencies to help you understand why you're doing some of the things you didn't want to do and what you can do about it. So really good book. And I encourage you to also listen to episode 275 to hear more. On episode 382, that's 382, I had Michael Matthews, and his book is Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. Now, that book happens to be for the men. He also now has, I think, a third edition for his women's book. I can't recall the name of it, but it's a very similar title, but more geared towards what women would see wanting to do. But this guy, this is an encyclopedia of lifting. I mean, if you want to get stronger, you want to get more muscular, that's this book. You have this book on your bookshelf. It is by far one of the best lifting resistance training books on the market. And Michael and I geek out in that conversation on episode 382 about all this stuff because I just love it. And he is so knowledgeable. He lives and breathes this stuff. He has thousands and thousands of conversations and followers, a huge following, and millions of people have bought his books. But that's because they work. They work. So if you want to learn about resistance training, start with Bigger, Leaner, Stronger, and listen to this interview with Michael Matthews, episode 382. And then finally, and while I said I didn't put these in any particular order, if I were forced to do so, this one would by far be my number one. By far, I believe Dr. David Friedman's book, Food Sanity, is the best health and fitness book written in at least the last 2 years. I haven't read anything better. In fact, I liked his protocol for the DIG method, where you're looking at food science and food stories, like the headlines, and trying to understand what they're saying and whether they make sense. His DIG method is just the most concrete, concise, straightaway way to get in and understand that science, understand what they're saying, and decide if it's right for you. He was so generous. He let me use that method in my book. He let me talk about it in my book. Again, that just floors me that he's so gracious and so giving that he wants the message out there, that he let me be part of sharing it, and that he came on the podcast and actually had me on his radio show podcast. Now, the episode he was on was 331. Strongly encourage you to listen to this one because he gets into some of the fads and the things that are out there, and he uses his DIG method as he goes through to really get to the bottom of whether things are really the way that they're telling us they are. So you read a headline, but is it really that way? And he's, like I said, he has such a cool approach to this stuff. And he's interviewed so many people like I have. He's interviewed more, sure, but he gets this stuff and he hears this stuff all the time. You know, it's like, this is good for you, now it's bad for you. Now it's good for you. He goes through and he drills through all that, and it just makes it so clear and so easy. So I would go check out his book, Food Sanity. So that's kind of my top 10 different episodes and things that I think you'll really enjoy and you'll learn something. So if you have to make a choice on them, check out those things. Now, something I've been working on recently was I went through and I've started tagging in the categories of the different podcasts on the website, the ones that are interviews and the ones that are solo shows. I've had feedback where there's folks that really love my solo shows and want me to do more of them, and I've had folks that have really been, involved and engaged and loving the interviews. So what I did is, if you just want to go back and listen to some back issues, but you don't want to listen to the solo episodes, then you can find the category for guests/interview, and then that's just going to be the interviews. It won't have any of the solo shows. If you just want to listen to some solo shows for a while, you can click on the category for solo, and that'll take you to those. I'm just in the process of doing that, so I won't have all of them done by the time this episode goes live, but I have done quite a few. So if you click on those different categories, that's going to help you hone down into some of the other items you might want to look into or that you might enjoy more than others. Okay. Also during the year, about a year ago maybe, I started a Patreon page. And, Patreon is a way for people who are producing content, doing the things like I'm doing, for us to be supported by the listeners. And so I have some patrons, and I want to take just a moment to thank them. Judy Murphy has been with me as soon as I started a Patreon page. She was the very first person on there, and she's been on there ever since. I just adore her. She's done most of my challenges, if not all of them. When we did the first squat challenge, she told me afterwards she's still doing squats, and so she's done tens of thousands of squats since the first squat deal, and she comes back for more every time I have a challenge, but she's on her own level now, and it's just so cool to watch her grow, to see the things that she's doing. And again, thank you, Judy, so much for being a patron and being a patron from the very beginning. But I also want to thank the other patrons. There's Tim Alexander, Randy Good, Debbie Ralston, and John Somsky. You guys make my day. Every day I go in there and I say, okay, I need to do this podcast episode. Who are my patrons so I can talk about you, or I can post about you on the website. They're out there, and they help support the show. There are costs to running a podcast. I've got the hosting costs. I've got the website cost. I have an audio producer to try to make the sound a little bit better. I have transcripts so that people can, if they can't hear, they can go in and read the transcripts. So all of that, I try to make all that available to make this an accessible tool for anyone. And all that does cost money. The tools and things that go into making this happen cost money. And so if you could help support the show by going to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/support, you can check out the Patreon page. For as little as $1 a month, you can be a patron and help the show. Every little bit helps. If you want to give a little bit more, there are some tiers where I offer some advantages, some gifts, and some notifications and things like that. But again, I appreciate the support of everyone that's supporting the show, whether you're a client, a listener, and you're on the Patreon page. Like I said, you're really close to my heart, and I really appreciate you helping me keep this show going. So if you want to support the show, go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/support. All right. So what else have I been doing? Well, a little over a year ago, not quite a year ago, I actually released the Wellness Roadmap. So the Wellness Roadmap has been out for almost a year, and it's up for 2 different awards. It's up for the Best Book Award in the health category, and it's up for the Author Academy Award. Now, the Author Academy Award, we made finalists. And now we're into the final voting to get to the final, to actually win. And so that's going to happen in October. But you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/finalist. And that's going to take you to a page. You'll have to scroll. It's a little hard to navigate this page, but you scroll to page 7 of 16. It's the health category. You'll see me on the top. Our book's right there on the top. You just click on the cover. They're not asking for email addresses or any information from you, but you can click on the cover and vote for the book. The voting will be part of the scoring. They haven't really explained the scoring, but we have to go up there and give speeches. That's going to be part of the scoring. Your vote's going to be part of the scoring, and then the judges will read the books, and then they will come forward and render the winner, and that'll be announced in late October. So you'll hear pretty soon, particularly if you're on our Facebook group, you'll probably hear me screaming that night. But if I win, I won't be screaming if I don't win. I'll be a gracious loser and know there was a reason I didn't win. But again, the Wellness Roadmap is up for that award. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/finalist and vote for the podcast. Vote for the book. Okay. I moved to Panama, if you didn't know. We live in Panama now. We're here pretty much full time. I've gone back a few times to get some things done, and we'll go back again in October for the awards, and then I'll be back in the States November, December to see family on our normal annual trip that we have planned. So while I'm down here, I saw the opportunity and jumped on it to buy a gym. So I bought a gym. And I've set the pricing of the gym. It's funny. I was talking to one of the girls that works at the gym trainer, and she was like, you should raise your prices. She said, you don't charge enough. And I said, I charge the price that I charge because I want the local people to be able to afford to come to the gym. I want this to be available. And so I am artificially deflating the prices here a little bit just so people can have access to a gym in a third world country. And I'm trying to make it as best I can the quality of a first world gym. It won't be a Gold's Gym, but I am doing things to make it better and better, and adding equipment and trying to do those things. And so that's been a big chunk of my life for the last 3-4 months since I got ownership. And I'm working on all that. That's taking some time, but it's really cool to see the smiles, see people coming in, more people in the classes. It's just real cool to know that I'm helping people do and get healthier. So that's been kind of a big pick me up for the last few months, is the ability to be able to get this gym up and going and get it moving the way it's supposed to. But I've also been working with clients and challenges. Over the course of the time of doing challenges in the last, I guess I've been doing challenges now for over 2.5 years. We've helped thousands of people. I've had thousands of different people come through the challenges, and a lot of them get really good results. And I'm really happy to do that. And each and every time I kind of want to do myself one better. I was recycling challenges. So I would do the sugar challenge, then I'd do the push-up challenge, then I'd do the burpee challenge, and, some others. And some of them did well. Some of them didn't do as well. There's favorites. The sugar challenge was always a favorite. The squat challenge was always a favorite. People had a love-hate with the burpee challenge, but a lot of people did enjoy that. And I enjoyed doing all those. But I'm trying to raise my game. I'm trying to make the challenges a little bit less focused on the doing, and a lot more on the results. So we're launching the Lose a Size Challenge in October. So you got about a week to sign up for this as this is going live. And in the Lose a Size Challenge, we're going to be doing a few behavioral changes. And in those are also going to be something that we kind of push. So there's going to be a progression to them as we go. And so it's a lot deeper, a lot more. It's more coaching based than the others. The others were, I would send you an email to remind you. I was there to support you. We talked about all this in the Facebook group. But in a general sense, there wasn't the direct interaction. There's going to be much more of that with this challenge. It's still free. This will probably be the only time I'll be able to run this challenge free. So I'd encourage you to check it out. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/size. And that's where you'll see the ability to go ahead and join the challenge. There's some basic information there. After you sign up, you'll get some more details and information about how all of this is going to work, how it's structured. But you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/size to join the Lose the Size Challenge. And one of the cool things, and I'll get into this in a minute, is that we're going to be putting this on the new training platform that I'm using. So there's going to be an app, there's messaging and all that, but I'll get a little deeper in that later in the conversation. But it is the first thing I'm doing with this new platform. So it'll be an opportunity for me to work with a lot of people and get a lot of results and be directly available for each and every one of you. So finally, what I wanted to talk about was, some of the other things that happened. As I was been doing the training, I've been trying to do better, just like I said with the podcast, just like I said with the gym. I'm constantly looking for what are the things that I can do better, what are the things that, I've done poorly or that are not working the way I want them to. And so over the course of my training, because I've been training people now for over 3 years, I've used 2 different platforms, meaning I had everything set up on the first platform. I started training people, and then, and you may recall, I called that Forever Fitness. And then I basically said, okay, this platform works, but it's not the way I want it to be. It's not as clean, it's not as easy, and it's hard to manage. So I said, okay, I want to change it. So I changed to a new platform. That platform worked a lot better. And I felt like we were really moving forward and getting a lot of change, helping a lot of people. But again, I just felt like I wasn't quite as accessible to as many people as I could be. And that's why I started looking at a new platform. And we'll talk about that in a minute, as I said. So as we got into all this, I think you can see from the book to the podcast to the training, we're talking thousands of hours that I've put into all of this because this is my passion project. I no longer have a corporate job. I pretty much take care of you 24/7. I'm pretty much thinking about how I can help the over 40 crowd get better, get fitter, get happier, and get healthier. And that mission of wellness is just, it's as solid and firm today as it was the day I launched. I really do want this for you. So now we're going to kind of take a look ahead. Okay. My goal is to keep the podcast going and try to get ever better guests. And so as I'm able to grow and make things happen, I'll be able to bring in even more and better guests. I'll continue to read their books. I'll continue to have great conversations. I'll continue to make them give you value each and every episode, so it's not a waste of your time. But this is where you can help me. If there's a guest that you want to hear, that they've got a book coming out, or they had a great book, or you've heard them speak before and you want them on the podcast, email me, Alan at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com. I will go after them. There was a review on iTunes not long ago. I'm sorry, I'm going to draw a blank on your name, but I literally wrote down those titles, the subjects, and started actively looking for authors around those subjects. So if there's a subject you want me to talk about, I'll go find an author. I'll find someone expert in that field and try to get them on the podcast. If there's a particular author or someone you want me to get on the podcast, let me know, and I'll start working on that. So you can email me and let me know what your interests are, and I'll make sure I'm trying to get that kind of content for you. In the coming year, I'm probably going to do fewer challenges. Like I said, the types of challenges I've done in the past were things that I could somewhat recycle relatively easily. I wasn't as engaged on a day-to-day basis, and so it was a little easier for me to set it up and then let it go and just be there when you had questions. The platform I'm going to be using now doesn't work that way. It's a lot more interaction, a lot more effort. Day to day, I'm going to be a lot more engaged, so I won't be able to do as many of the challenges, but I'll continue to do challenges, and some of them I might charge for. But again, I'm still committed to making sure that there are challenges out there that give you the growth and the things that you need, because a lot of people come around those challenges. Like I said, there's been thousands of them that have come through the challenges and had some really good results. So we'll keep doing the challenges, I promise. Okay. I'm working on this new platform. So we talked about it a little bit. And if you do the Lose a Size Challenge, you'll be one of the first people to actually get to see the platform and what it does. It basically allows me to be a trainer in your pocket. I'll be able to message you. You can message me through the app or through the web portal. So there's a web portal and there's an app. All of your stuff is there. And if, it's not so much for the Lose a Size Challenge, because I'm not giving you specific workout protocols or specific nutritional things. I'm giving you some habits. I'm giving you some behavioral things to focus on, and we're working through those. And so as we work on those behaviors together, we start to see the changes, and hopefully those changes and the behaviors become a habit. And we get you to setting those habits. As we develop those habits and we work them through progression, you'll hopefully start seeing results. Now, when you want to start getting a little bit more granular and you want to be doing specific modality things, that's when this platform is going to be really, really cool working with my clients, because they can send me videos of their workouts. The workouts I send them will have videos. Initially, it will be videos provided by my developer, but in the future, I plan on those videos being me performing those exercises that I'm then asking my clients to do. So it's a really robust platform that lets me effectively be a trainer in your pocket. And so if you're interested in looking into the personal training space that I'm doing, I'd encourage you to go check it out. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com, and I've got some information there. If you've got some basic questions about it, though, and you want to dive a little bit deeper to see if online personal training is for you, I'm open to do a 15-minute consult. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/15MIN. Again, that's 15MIN, and that will take you to my Calendly page. So you can get on my calendar. We can have a 15-minute talk about online personal training or any things you're going through, and we can talk about whether this is right for you. But if you're doing the Lose a Size Challenge, you're going to get to kind of see a lot. You'll be interacting with me anyway. So either way, you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/size to join the challenge, or you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/15MIN to book a free 15-minute consult. So I'm really excited about the enhancements I'm putting in here, investing in the platform so I can provide better service to all of my clients. What I've decided going into 2020 is I probably am going to raise the price on my group training again. It's $75 per person. And I think that's fair for what I've been doing, but in the new platform, with the ability to instant message me, with me developing multiple training programs and being able to provide those to you directly, while I wouldn't necessarily be direct coaching you like I would with my one-on-one clients, and we wouldn't have the one-on-one calls, there's still quite a bit of interaction and things that we'll be doing together as a group client that I feel like the service is worth a little bit more. It's doing a lot more, and so I want to go ahead and raise the prices. But you can get in on the current price if you go ahead and sign up before I go up on the prices. That'll be in the next month or so. I'm not sure exactly when I'll go up, but I am going to go up on the group prices. I'm not going to go up on the one-on-one. I'll keep the one-on-one steady for now. I do think that that's a fair price for the training I'm providing. Now, one-on-one is basically application only. I don't let people just sign up for the one-on-one. So if one-on-one is something you're interested in, go ahead and get on one of those consult calls. 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/15MIN. We can have a quick conversation. I might still send you over to the application, but in a general sense, we can have a quick conversation to decide if that kind of training is right for you. I want to bring on some more clients. I'm doing this full time. This is my living. This is the only way I make money right now. So I want to do this. So if you're interested in online training, you want to coach in your pocket, then this is the perfect time for you to consider joining up with 40 Plus Fitness. Okay, obviously, I told you the gym is kind of a passion project as well. I'm buying equipment, buying furniture, trying to make it nicer. I'm expanding the space, so it's going well. I'm going to continue to enjoy that. I'm going to have a home base. You'll probably begin to see, particularly if you are training with me, some of the videos that I'll be filming in that space. So instead of my old garage gym where a lot of my videos were filmed, you're going to actually see me now in Island Fitness doing that same thing. So I think that'll be really cool. Now, if you're still with me, man, bless you. I know this hasn't been like a huge content show. You might be thinking it's Alan's just me. And I gave you a lot of links. You can go to the show notes, 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/400. Again, whatever the episode number is, that's where you'll find it. When we get the show notes out there, it'll have all these links in them. In fact, I'll probably just do a lot of the links in bullet point form at the front as a summary of the links, so you can just find the link you're interested in without having to go through all the reading all the talk. But I'll put those in the show notes for you, just so you have them and you can check them out. So don't bother if you haven't written things down. I'll make sure to have them there. It's episode 400, and you can find them there. But I wanted to close out the show with something a little bit valuable. If you've listened to many of the recent podcasts, you know that I've kind of come up with a question that I'm now asking everybody and getting some really good answers. I've really enjoyed having that part of the conversation because it goes outside the realm of what their book is about and just really dives into what they think is important in health and fitness. Now, some of them answer directly from their book, but many others are bringing in just other tips and tricks and things that they see as tactics and strategies that will really help you. And what is that question? And you know that question. You probably could say it as well as I can. I define wellness as being the healthiest, fittest, and happiest you can be. What are 3 strategies or tactics to get and stay well? Okay, well, the first one for me is eat whole food. The more you focus on eating whole food, the better your nutrition. The better your nutrition, the less likely you are to overeat. The less likely you are to overeat, the less likely you are to be overweight and have complications such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, thyroid, and all the other. Most of those diseases are caused by lifestyle, and many of them are caused by us not controlling the amount of food and the kind of food we eat. So focus on whole foods. And by whole foods, I mean the kind of food where it grew. You can tell an apple grew. Applesauce, a little harder to tell. And you start looking on the label, and there's a lot more in there than just apple. Whole food has one ingredient. Beef has beef. Fish has fish. Chicken has chicken. Potato has potato. Carrot has carrot. Strawberry has strawberry. Blueberry has blueberry. That's it. You don't need anything else. So stick to it as much as possible, just whole foods, and you're going to do a lot better. The second one for me is to train your body to be who you want to be 5, 10, 20, 50 years from now. So many times people go in and say, what's the workout I need to do to lose weight? Or what's the workout I need to do, to get huge and strong? And, not that exercise approach is wrong. It's just, there's a point where, you're strong enough. I happen to be relatively strong. And at times I've pushed myself to deadlift more, to squat more, to bench press more. And more isn't necessarily the best use of my time. I do need to be strong, but I don't need to be that strong today to be the guy I want to be at 105. So the guy I want to be at 105, he can get up from a seated position easily, so leg strength. I can push and pull myself around if I need to. If for some sad reason I happen to end up on the ground, whether I tripped or fell or slipped, I have enough muscle mass to not break. I have the bone density to not break. And then I have the muscular strength and mobility to get myself back up on my feet. And hopefully I have the balance to not fall in the first place. But those are the modalities that have the most impact to me that I need to consider training today so I can be that individual 5, 10, 20, or 50 years from now. And then finally, optimize your sleep. I brought this up earlier. We've talked about sleep with Dr. Mark Bubbs. Basic performance, doing the best you can do, feeling the best you can do, really does require high quality sleep. So focus on the quality of your sleep. Sleep in the dark. Get off the computers and the screens. Don't drink caffeine or alcohol if that's going to impair your sleep. If you're a high responder to caffeine or not. You've probably experienced it. The 3 o'clock coffee keeps you up to 11 or 12 o'clock. Our ancestors did not stay up until 11 or 12 o'clock. The sun set, they set a little fire, they cooked dinner, they went to bed. Probably like I do before 8:30. And then the sun comes up in the morning, they're up. They're up about trying to find the food for that day. So get optimal sleep, and with optimal sleep, you'll find a lot better health, a lot better function, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot better performance. So that does it for today's show. I wanted to close out with a quote and then one more little link. The quote is this: live like you're dying tomorrow. Treat your body like you'll live forever. And I think those are just maybe the wisest words to live by. Enjoy yourself. Part of the wellness is the happiness, the joy. Do things that make you that you enjoy. You have fun, and live your life today. Don't just live for tomorrow. But at the same time, recognize that your body's probably going to be around to serve you for a long, long time. So take care of it. And if you want to interact with me a little bit more, I encourage you, if you haven't already, to join us on the Facebook group. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/group. It's a really cool group out there. People interact. We're approaching 800 people, but it's not an overwhelming, constant bop, bop, bop that you get in a lot of groups. It's just people interacting and enjoying themselves, congratulating each other for their wins, having some fun. Every once in a while I'll post something that I find interesting out there for you. And then I'm just there to answer questions. So if you have a question, pop out there and ask it. I'll be glad to chime in, and heck, it might even become a podcast episode later if I really like the topic and it's worth spending that much time on. So do join us on the Facebook group, 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. We are an open group at this point, so you could actually search for us, or you can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/group. So with that, again, I want to thank you for being a part of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast. Thank you for celebrating this 400th episode of the podcast. Here's to 400 more. I'm really looking forward to when we get into the 4 digits, which is a long, 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 long way away. But I'm going to keep doing this as long as you're still listening. So again, thank you for being a part of the podcast. If there's anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Now, before you get out of here, do check out our October challenge, the 40 Plus Fitness Lose a Size Challenge. Go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/size, and that'll take you to the sign up page. It'll show you a lot more about how everything's going, what we're going to be doing for this Lose the Size Challenge. If you want to lose the size and you want to do it in 30 days, go check out the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast Lose a Size Challenge at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/size. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Dr. Amy Sarin and discuss her book, The Stress Switch. Until then, have a happy and healthy week.